Master Connectors, we are on here. Let's go.
You know, he challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn and engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We all deal with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro and Cameron Toth is live on air.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Master Connectors, so happy that you're here. You know, we're going to get into this today. You know, there are things that get in your way. And, you know, I think the easiest one that I can call out from my own history is just not knowing what you don't know, right? And, you know, I think that's one of the reasons a show like this is so important, connecting with people that are potential mentors and teachers for you that can connect you to places, because the things that get in the way of your success can be things that you just aren't even looking for, that you don't even think about. And when you get somebody that has a little bit more knowledge than you, just 10% literally can make 100% of difference. Can level your game up 10x in terms of how you approach life and how you get into it. Steve, you ready to get us into this topic today?
Absolutely, 100%. Hey, what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. Silent killers of success? Well, they are factors that prevent individuals or organizations from achieving their goals and objectives. In my experience, these could be anything from, you know, negative attitudes, lack of motivation, procrastination, fear of failure, and self-doubt, right? These killers are called silent because they're often hidden beneath the surface and go unnoticed, and until they've already caused a significant damage, right? It's you know, they sneak up on you, right? They can be detrimental to one's success, as they could slow down progress, hinder productivity, and ultimately lead to failure. Okay, and it's important to identify and address these silent killers early to prevent them from really sabotaging our success. But that is my sort of pedestrian interpretation of this topic. Okay, wait till you hear from our guest, who is a multiple entrepreneur with an incredible educational pedigree. And I'm not going to, you know, kind of preempt, you know, Cameron's amazing intro of him, but he has got a very unique perspective on this topic that you're really going to want to stay tuned in for. So if you're ready for Cameron, my man, my host, my co-host, and partner in crime, to introduce our guest, I want you to type in the comments right now, come on, and hashtag come on, and I'll turn it over to you, sir. Appreciate all you do, Cameron.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring in Mr. Ram Iyer right here. Here we go. Get him on the screen here. I introduce him. Ram Iyer is a 5-time entrepreneur, former Silicon Valley venture capitalist, and an MIT graduate. Ram speaks about succeeding in business and life by eliminating the silent killers of success and by developing business thinking, a business mindset, and leveraging the immigrant mindset. He provides unique insights that will help you succeed as an employee, entrepreneur, business leader. He's a straight shooter who speaks from personal successes and failures combined with psychology and common sense. He built one venture that did business in 16 countries and lost his entire life savings on the next venture. His practical insights will save you time and heartache. Please welcome to the Master Connector Show, the real and the rocking Ram Iyer. Thank you for being here with us, man.
Thank you very much. That was one heck of an introduction. I feel like I'm on the Johnny Carson show.
There you go. There you go.
Or you're ready to wrestle or you know go get on a boxing match, you know?
Absolutely.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Let's go.
Yep.
All right, excellent, good stuff. Well, great to have you on here, Ram. And it's I know you and I had an incredibly intriguing conversation a few weeks back. It was probably about a month ago. So we want to dig into this. So, you know, we love our community. So community, And Yolanda, as always, we appreciate you tuning in from Texas, from Frisco. Cameron's from, I believe it's Valhalla or Pleasantville. I forget.
Come on, man. Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Steve Spiro's coming to you from Stanford. Come on.
Come on. Stanford, Connecticut. We both beat each other's places multiple times, and we can't even get it straight. But anyway, we're excited here. So we want you in the community. Want you in the comments. Don't be a LinkedIn lurker. Be a participant. Let's get in there. And so if you're ready, I want you to type in #lessons. All right, put it in the comments right now, #lessons. And so here we want to get into the questions with Ram here. So here's a question. You were doing business in 16 countries at one point and then lost your entire life savings. Tell us about that and what lessons did that experience teach you?
Well, at that time, I thought everything was wrong with the world and I was A-okay. After all, I'm Ram. After all, I'm an MIT grad, etc., etc. But it took me several years. I think it was in 2018. It took me almost 5 years after the debacle until it all started to come together. Because initially, I was kind of in a funk. I mean, you could describe my state and put it in the dictionary. It got so bad. I remember my sister telling me you should go get a job bagging groceries.
Oh.
And here I am. I have a master's in underwater robotics. I worked at Boeing and Lucent. I have a master's from MIT. I was the president of the MIT Alumni Association. And here was somebody telling me go bag groceries. That was, it wasn't a kick in the face. It was a kick somewhere else.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think when something like that happens, we all go through a phase where we blame the world, and I think then we spend a lot of time in self-pity. It's like, poor me, poor me, Steve doesn't understand. Poor me, Cameron doesn't understand. And then I said, you know what? So I picked up the phone. I called up a bunch of friends. A lot of them were MIT grads, Harvard grads, people at McKinsey, Deloitte, a bunch of places. And I said, what went wrong? See, the thing is, anybody can ask a question. But if I ask Steve, you a question, you can only give me an answer based upon your past experience.
That's right.
Who you are.
Yep.
Okay, I can't expect you to understand my thing. And most people readily offer opinions. So if you are, what's the right word? If you're not careful about who you ask, you're going to get a lot of unhelpful opinions. I'm not even saying advice, opinions. I got a lot of unhelpful opinions. Like in my family, I'm the only entrepreneur. They're all salaried people. One works for Bell Labs, my other one works for IBM. So they know how to put in their 40 or 60 hours a week and get the thing.
And they're successful. And it's important to understand that they're successful, right? They're people that
in their own mind, they are successful.
Right.
Not the way I see it. So anyway, I picked up the phone, called these people. They said, you failed because you lack something. You don't have something. 2, everything they pointed to that they said I lacked, which was, you didn't have the right team. You didn't have adequate capital. You didn't have the right technology. It was all external. 1, you'd be more successful. You were unsuccessful because you lack something. 2, they're all external. It's kind of like saying, Steve will be more successful if you wore a red jacket. Okay. And it turns out that many of the people who were giving me those kinds of comments were people who were selling red jackets, or they were trying to sell whatever they said I lacked.
Sure.
So I said, let me look at this. I spoke to a friend of mine who is a PhD in psychology, and she said, well, one of the things you do is you think differently. You don't think like everybody else. So I said, how about, what if I had failed not because I lack something, but because I have something? 2, what if it wasn't something external to me, but internal to me? Mm-hmm. In other words, did I fail because of who I was at that time?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like saying, Steve, your life is kind of in shambles. Please help me understand what are all the things that make you a real screw up. It's like, like people don't want to ask that question. And worse, they don't want to answer that.
Sure.
But I asked that question one evening. I came up with 3 answers. Then I picked up the phone, called all my friends, and I said, listen, I thought about it differently. What do you think? He said, oh, that's a very interesting way of looking at things. In that case, let me tell you how else you screwed up. Okay, so that list grew from 3 to 7, and it went to 12. And one of them was an old friend of mine who was the worldwide head of alumni relations for McKinsey, the #1 management consulting firm in the world. So he said, Ram, this is interesting. Come up to Boston, give a talk. So I labeled them at that time for that talk, which I gave at MIT, the silent killers of success.
Mm-hmm.
Things within us and around us that cause us to fail. So it's kind of like saying, Steve, you and I are going to go on a 100-meter dash.
Right.
I have a bad ankle, but I'm not going to tell anybody about it. Just because I don't tell anybody about my bad ankle does not allow me to still run competitively in the race against you.
Sure. Yep.
Okay? I can keep it a secret, but it's still going to hurt me.
That's right.
So that's one good example of a silent killer. 2, and sometimes it is maybe I don't even recognize I have a miniature fracture, like micro fracture. And I go on the race, and after 10 meters, it really breaks, and I stop and I lose. So that is an example of an unknown weakness, an unknown constraint. So whether you know it or you don't, there are certain things that will hold you back. Yep. Here is something I figured out, which I've presented to a lot of audiences. Like in the next, through the end of September, I'm going to speak in about, I think, 10 alumni clubs of the top 15 universities in the world. It's like, Harvard. I'm speaking to the Harvard Club of Australia, MIT Club of Japan, a whole bunch of them. One very simple thing I figured out. When we are young, we focus on our strengths and we build our strengths.
Yep.
But we are also building weaknesses because you have weaknesses, I have weaknesses. We ignore our weaknesses and keep leveraging our strengths.
Yep.
Once we finish college, we start the strengths we're not building anymore because we stop learning, we stop building knowledge. Most of us kind of start coasting because now you've started a family and you got to take care of kids and go to soccer practice and all that. So your strengths plateau, but your weaknesses you've been ignoring, they continue to grow. So your success is the net of your strengths and your weaknesses. So this thing keeps on narrowing. So what happens in your mid-career and later for many people is that your weaknesses becomes, unmitigated weaknesses keep growing so much that your success keeps shrinking.
Yeah.
So what I found is a very simple thing. The easiest way, particularly when you're in your mid-career and later, you can become more successful, is by identifying and mitigating your weaknesses.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to throw...
Amongst them are the silent killers of success.
Yeah.
And now that list has grown from 12 to 20.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to kind of jump in a little bit. So, there's certain things that we have, right? And I heard about the Johari window pane. I don't know if the window panes, I don't know if we spoke about this when we chatted, but there are the 4 window panes of us as a person, right? One window pane is the obvious, I've got a pretty large forehead. Okay. That's the obvious, right? You know it and I know it, right? Then there's the ones that, but I don't, right? That's blind spots. And then there's the ones that I know, but you don't know. That's sort of the secrets, whatever, maybe nothing gory, but nothing ugly, but our personal stuff. And then the 4th window pane is what you don't know about me and I don't know about me. It's the great unknown. It's the potential, right? And what I found is the power of having, incredible people in your life. In my case, a mentor, is they could help you with those 2 window panes, the great unknown, the potential, and those blind spots, because you can't see them yourself. In your case, it sounds like you had your MIT alumni that were able to kind of, there you go. Thank you, Cameron. But yeah, it was the alumni was able to help you determine some of those things. But I also really acknowledge what you're saying, and I have a lot of people that once they finish college, they don't want to read anymore. They're like, I'm done with reading, and it's a shame because life, to me, the education, it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't mean you have to keep going back for masters and PhDs, but as long as you're continually learning, right, and you're having those, I like self-development books. I'm constantly reading. I do about 2 or 3 books a month, but constantly growing, and then learning from your successes, right? You're either I believe you're either winning or you're learning, and so you're learning from those experiences also, versus just saying, okay, I'm gonna keep making those same mistakes. It's somebody else. It's something external. So anyway, those are my perspectives, but I want to continue to hear you. And I don't know if you have more lessons, but I wanted to get into one question I had and I want to do a #how for the community. And maybe you could kind of, continue going on, but kind of put this one in perspective, right? So how can you be much more successful with the strengths that you currently possess? Okay. Because you talked about some of the weaknesses and some of those things, but let's turn that a little bit and let's talk about the strength side and how do you enhance those things?
See, that's actually a good point, but it has a fundamental flaw, I think. Okay. We are a society where we only want to hear good news. So, it's like, oh, Steve, you look so handsome. Oh, Steve, you're so smart. Oh, Steve, you're good. You want to hear that. If I say, Steve, you know what? You're terrible with people. And they're like, first of all, nobody.
That was true for a lot of years.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying, 2 things. One, first of all, most people do not have the guts to tell you things to your face. Okay? They won't tell you. They won't say, Steve, you're terrible with people. But 2, you don't want to hear it either. So if I want to remain a friend and if I want to remain a consultant or supplier, whatever the relationship is, the best thing I can do is keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
So we have an entire society of people who are focused only on their strengths. And what I said was, they're not continuing to build strengths. See, like your strengths, you cannot grow them. Like when you are 5 years old to 10 years old, your strengths probably grew by 100%.
Sure.
Right?
You're an open book.
When you're 35 years old and to 50 years old, there is no way in heck you're going to grow your strengths by 100%. It ain't happening. You can grow it by 2%. You can grow it by 5%. If you're really hardworking, 10%. The smarter thing to do is recognize that once you get to middle age, mid-career, your weaknesses that you have ignored for the last 35 years or the last 40 years or the last 50 years offer the best leverage for you to become more successful. Because remember one thing, people have this really screwed up notion that success comes from your strengths only. The key word is only. It does to a certain point. Probably if you take a 19-year-old, he can shut down, 3-6, 12 packs. And if I even tried to get through a 6-pack, I'd be flat on my back. Okay, he's leveraging his strengths, which is his ability, his liver to process the alcohol, and I think that's the organ that processes alcohol. So anyway, so he does that. Whereas I don't have that same ability. But on the other hand, I can go and find my weaknesses and go start chopping them down. I can chop them down 5%, 10%, and every percentage point I take out increases my net success, which is the difference between my strengths and my weaknesses. It's a lot like you can grow revenue, which is very hard, like in a business, but you can cut some of the costs rather easily because every business you have, every organization has money they're spending that is not necessary. So every dollar you take out of expense goes directly to your profit line, your bottom line. So success is like a profit. The revenues minus expense. You can only grow revenue so much. At some point, you become incapable of growing revenue. Maybe the market is saturated. Maybe your competitors are too big. But you can always go and say, can we become more efficient? Can we become more productive? Can we take out certain things? Can we reimagine how we do things? And you can take that and apply it to your life as well. You already know your strengths. You're already leveraging it. That's what brought you to this point. But have you spent time looking at your weaknesses? And
It's interesting
simple,
because you
very simple thing there, very simple there.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear about their weaknesses. So I said, how do I tell Steve what his weaknesses are without pissing him off? I developed an assessment which you can take online anonymously, or you can take it online, and you can get a report which says, Steve, here are your issues.
Yeah, it's funny that, but what happens is we hear for years, and I've heard it, which is, enhance your strengths, right? Focus on your strengths, not on your weaknesses. That's this. Why I wanted to have you on the show is because you're flipping the switch for us here. This is not what you're saying, which is interesting. And listen, I haven't been that person that has only capitalized on my strengths, because if I did, I was that guy who had horrible people skills, and I've worked on my people skills. That was not a strength of mine. And I think to a degree that has become now one of my strengths today, is my ability to create relationships and have, good communication, connection with people. So I agree with you, but that's that old model that you hear a lot. Hey, capitalize on your strengths, just mitigate your weaknesses, right? But I like what you're saying here. It's great. Well, we want to keep this rolling, so you could incorporate on what you're saying, keep going. But I want to talk about mindset a little bit here. So community.
Steve, I want you to get into that, and community, definitely get in there and type in mindset. But
yes,
I had the conversation this morning, Ram, about the idea, telling somebody that, I got feedback from a client, they have issues, and the immediate response from the employee is, well, I got issues with them, right? They're not in listening mode. They're in defensive mode. And I think so often somebody may be giving us the gift of pointing out a weakness or a deficiency, something that we could close the gap on, some expense, right? To your point, Ram, that we could eliminate out of our, presence, being, mode of operation. And so often we have our ears closed to it. It's such an amazing point.
No doubt.
See, very simply, Cameron, all of us are inherently lazy. You, me, all of us. If we can get away with not doing any work, we do it. Okay. It's like, why would I work if I don't have to? Okay. That's how our mind is wired. See, I don't know if you know about the triune brain theory, about the difference between the cerebral brain, the cerebral cortex, your emotional brain, and the reptilian brain, which is the at the basal ganglia. So your basal ganglia is there to protect you. It protects Steve. It protects Cameron. Okay. If I come and say, listen, you know what? You need to change. It says, wait a minute. That means work. I don't like that.
So,
well, a lot of it has to do with, Ram, is because back in the day, you needed mental and needed all the awareness to be able to protect yourself. So if you had to be focusing on stuff, it was your awareness was less, and so it instinctively didn't want you. It wanted you to operate on kind of the least amount of work, so you could be aware to be able to react. But keep going.
See, that's what it does. So now, Cameron, coming back to what you said to that employee, here you are cerebrally telling him that he needs to change, and the customer doesn't like his behavior. You are using logic to fight his emotional brain. Mm-hmm. So his basal ganglia is saying, don't do any more work. And when you said the customer really doesn't like you, you're attacking his emotion. So he gets pissed off. So what chance do you think you have using logic against somebody who's emotionally pissed off?
Zero. Less than zero.
So you won't get anywhere. So I came up with a very simple solution. I said, what are all the things that typically affect people? And like I said, I started at 3 on that day 1. It's now 20. I put together an assessment. So somebody can, let's say Yolanda goes and takes that assessment. She can find out which one of those 20 or which ones of those 20 are enabling her success, meaning they're not disabling her, and which ones are disabling. And she can go and take those, and she can fix those. So in other words, remember I told you about those 2 curves? So you flatten this and you increase the gap. So the net success increases.
That's awesome.
And when I explain this to people, like I said, I spoke to a large group of MIT alums
Yeah.
just a few weeks ago, and they were like, I didn't think about it that way. Because they always said, we've all been told. Because, see, if I say, Steve, you have a weakness, and I'm a consultant, or let's say I'm your coach, guess who now has the responsibility to fix that weakness? I do. Guess what? Most coaches do not know how to fix it. Do not know. Because it often has to do with your mindset. Okay? So I spent 6 years, and I have my own mindset model that I started developing in 2017.
Yep.
I have a certain set of tools and interviews that I do. I can figure out what your mindset is by talking to you and getting you to do that.
Yep.
I cannot name a company, but this is a Fortune 50 company, extremely well known, 100% of you know it. I sat down with the CEO, and just before the interview, I said, at the end of this interview, I'm going to tell you 2 or 3 things that drive you and 2 or 3 things that hold you back. And he was like, yeah, whatever, you're just another. So he finished the interview. I took him aside and I said, these are 3 things that enable you, that have helped you to get to where you are. And here are 2 things that hold you back. And he says, how the heck do you know? Number 1, that was acknowledgement, right? That I wasn't wrong. I said, you told me. He said, when did I tell you? I said, you told me during this interview. And I had had lunch with him before that. And he was really surprised. So I've gone and tested this with many people. And it works well. The assessment works well. And I have a silent killers assessment. If you're interested, I can share that link with you. And also, I have a set of tools for each of those 20 factors. And if people want to do mindset work, that's something else they can contact me.
Yeah, we want to get into mindset a little bit. You mentioned something, or in your intro, about being an immigrant, and so apparently somehow you figured out a way to leverage the immigrant mindset. And curious, how and why you did that, and how did it help you? If you could just maybe touch on that, because we have a lot of diverse folks in our community that are from other places and from that from other countries.
Well, absolutely. Like I think about 13% of all Americans today are immigrants.
Yeah.
When I had this debacle, I don't know if you folks know Marshall Goldsmith. He's a executive coach. He was ranked the number 1 executive coach in the world for 2 years. He wrote "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." He's written like 45 books. Okay. So I was at Marshall's apartment in Manhattan, and I was telling him, I said, something is holding me back. I figured a few things out. He said, I don't know why you're kind of fighting this. I said, what? What do you mean? He says, you're an immigrant. You know many immigrants. Go talk to them and figure out what the successful ones do and what the unsuccessful ones don't. So I literally, over the next 2 years, personally interviewed 120 immigrants, including Nobel Prize winners, CEOs of companies, really people who were recent graduates. And I found, exactly, that book. That's Marshall Goldsmith.
There you go.
Very bright guy.
Cameron's on it.
Extremely helpful guy. Extremely helpful guy.
Yeah.
Okay, I lost my train of thought there.
Thanks, Cameron. Just trying to be helpful.
I know. Anyway, so he said, so I interviewed them, and I figured out a set of things that they have that if you leveraged could help you as well. I'll give you one very simple example. I'm an immigrant. I've lived in the US now for 41 years.
Okay.
So let's say, Steve, you may call me an outsider. But then if I tell Cameron all the things I've done here in the last 41 years, he'll call me an insider because I worked at Boeing. I know Carly Fiorina, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So immigrants are inherently outsider insiders or insider outsiders, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So you always have a different perspective as compared to people who were born and raised here.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
and often I found they're people that come over with they have this fearlessness, right? They're coming over often with like $5 in their pocket, and they don't know where they're going to live often. They don't know what kind of job, but they become extremely successful. Many of them, not all, but many of them. And they don't have that Americanized, lazy, getting into a rut mentality.
No. I don't agree with your characterization. See, it's not that Americans are lazy. It's not that Americans are lazy. There are very industrious Americans, and believe me, I have personally met scary smart Americans. Scary smart. They're so smart, scary. I was scared. I met them at MIT. Okay, so it's not
smart
that,
doesn't mean success, by the way.
Believe me, I'm writing a book on that, so that's a separate topic.
Yes.
So sticking with this, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought.
I got you off track again. There you go.
Yeah, no. See, once I'm speaking, my mind is working. If I get off track, I lose that track. So,
we're talking about immigrants and moving in that direction. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So.
All right,
let's move to something else,
once you
get me off track.
Apologies on that, but yeah, we want to just last thing we want to talk about, because we're getting to the top of the half hour here. So since the show is about the silent success killers, I want to type in #killers, and then let's kind of wrap it up with, how do you identify and mitigate your own silent killers of success, and why? Let's sort of kind of give some people kind of some like tools to kind of get at least get started here. Obviously, reach out to Ram, obviously, and he'll help you a lot.
I will do a very simple thing while you're waiting. I will give you a link. They can go there and take it, but I will have to give you a specific coupon code for that. Can we do that offline? Yeah,
sure.
We can do that offline. I remembered what I was thinking about on the immigrants. See, the immigrants come with a certain self-confidence. When they come here, all they see are opportunities. But if you were born and raised here, you just see it's a tree, it's a thing, But the immigrant looks at it differently and says, like, for example, the difference between a non-business person and a business person. You can look outside and you can see 10 trees. And a business person says 10 trees. Each one of them can give me so many cubic foot of firewood. And if I chop these 10 trees down, I can make so much money. So they just think that way. So immigrants have a certain way of thinking. And if you take advantage of that, you can succeed as an immigrant. But here's a really important point. Even if you're a non-immigrant, you can take it, you can kind of emulate them, and you too can become more successful.
Yep. I believe hopefully we have the right link for you, but there's a link that Cameron's about to put up here. If you can, there's a little chat. If there's a way you can put the link to the chat, and then Cameron could post it for you. But while we're doing that, because we're really at the top of the half hour on the show. There you go. I don't know if that's the link you're referring to, Ram.
Well, this is just the blog and his LinkedIn address. That's what we had on the form on the back end. So he's going to give us something else. Yeah.
Okay. But
I will give you a link to the assessment.
Beautiful.
This is just for the silent killers. I will type it in the next 5 seconds if it loads. Yep.
There you go.
Where do I type it? Under comments?
Yeah. Well,
private chat. Private chat is where you're going to put
private chat for sure. So
private chat.
But this has been a great episode, and hopefully you guys, community, I'm hoping you're going to make sure you connect with Ram and go take advantage of some of the resources he's providing you. But we got that now, so we're going to send that to the community. Thank you, Cameron. Ram, if you can, as we wrap up here, maybe one closing comment. And best way for the community to reach you, please, as we're getting to the tail.
I just provided my email address. See, one very simple message, and I'm not a fluff guy. I tell you like it is. You may or may not like what I have to say, but I'll tell you anyway.
I love it.
Every one of you can become more successful if you only stop following the herd. If you do what everybody else. Remember, success is always relative. So if I want to be more successful than Steve and Cameron, if I only do what Steve and Cameron do and everybody else does, and it's only do what's popular, that's not going to make me relatively more successful than all these people. So, like people tell you, focus on your strengths. Fine, if you're under the age of 30, that probably will work better for you. But if you're past the age of 30, even after your college days, you really should go and identify and mitigate your weaknesses. You really should. You need to think differently. Two, many people think they are smart. Okay, intelligence and smartness are two entirely different things. I'm writing a book that's going to come out in October, which is I Smart and Successful. I also am developing a board game that teaches people, irrespective of how intelligent you are, how you can become more successful. So each one of you can become more successful. Here is a simple headline. Don't listen to snake oil salesmen. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on gurus, and it's been an absolute freaking waste of money. Okay?
Well, I thought one of the most poignant, sharp things that you said today is there's always somebody out there that is saying that you need a red jacket and is ready to sell you the red jacket, right? And I thought that was a great example of, because we're all getting emails in the inbox all day. You need this list for your sales thing. You need this for your phone system. You need this, and guess what they're selling, right? And so I think it's really interesting when you have mentors and you're speaking with people that really are looking at you, examining who you are, what your successes, what your weaknesses are, and really examining there and sort of defining and deciding, hey, do you know this? Do you understand this? Have you read this? Have you been to this place? Have you spoken to these people that are doing exactly what you want to do? Or have you been getting advice from these folks over here that think they know what they're doing, but don't do any of the things that you actually want to do, right? Yeah. I think those are huge, huge, huge pieces.
But you're absolutely right. See, a lot depends upon, like I've been approaching alumni clubs around the world. Some of them get it right away. So, for example, September 13th, I'm speaking at the University of Michigan, Ross School of Business, in an auditorium with about 300 people. And it's being co-organized by 8 or 10 alumni clubs, Harvard, Wharton, University of Michigan, MIT, a whole bunch of them. There are some alumni clubs I talked to, they said, none of our members really need this. Okay? I can't tell them you're wrong, but according to them, they're right. So please listen to people who are credible and believe that you can become much more successful with whatever intelligence you have, with whatever strengths you have, because there's an easier path to achieving greater success, which is go and identify and mitigate your weaknesses. I wish you well. I've shared my email. Feel free to email me.
Yes, for sure. Well, we appreciate you. Speaking of success, and don't forget to pick up the book, The Tao of the Master Connector. It's a great book that gives you nuggets of success. Thank you, Cameron. Nuggets of success, some wisdom, some mindset, and definitely it's my life work. So I appreciate that. And
a lot of what we were talking about today, speaking of books, because we've mentioned this book quite a bit, but I wanted to show this one while we were up here. But I thought, a lot of what we were talking about, the weaknesses piece, having people that are smarter than you in your network. There's a book that's been around since 1937. That's sort of shared some of this stuff and got some of this wisdom. And I love promoting this.
There it is. Classic. Think you're rich.
And just, the pieces of knowledge, everybody's got the hot new thing, but there's some pieces of wisdom out there that we can tap into. And really it's something that so many people talk about, and the idea of capitalizing on your weaknesses, understanding them so that you can then utilize them to sort of bend the world to your will. Such a big deal, Ram. Thank you for sharing that.
And the other book that you should think, definitely Mindset by Dweck, which is that growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Because
be careful with that one. See, what that does is it kind of seems to give you the impression that people only have two kinds of mindset: the fixed mindset.
No, I get it.
Mindset. That is not true.
Nothing black or white, for sure.
There's no black. So what I've done is I've developed a mindset model which can help you figure out what your mindset is.
Yeah.
You cannot work with
so many of these things, Rob. So many of these things, and I like what you're talking about. And I think I don't know if it's similar at all to like the DISC thing. And I think one of the things that's sort of attractive about DISC, other than people saying, well, okay, I'm going to automatically be able to read the matrix. I'm going to be able to look at the data that's in front of me, and I'm going to know exactly how to speak to this person. That's not not really what it's about. It's sort of the selling point. Like so many of these things, it's sort of setting it up to make the world easier to read. But a lot of it is, listen, if you got somebody that you're working with, and I've utilized it in my office, there are things that you can do to present yourself to a different sort of person from you, right? Because you're not talking to people that are your twin in the world, that what their life is like. And so being able to read personality and mindset a little bit can help you a lot. And so I would say one of those things that, and I'm sure your program is a little bit, you can't do it one and done, right? It's something that you have to study and understand and dive deeper in so that you can actually start to read the matrix a little bit. There's no silver bullets out there. And I think so many people are selling books, and trying to simplify things, growth mindset versus fixed mindset, that kind of thing. They're helpful, but we got to understand that there's no silver bullet, right? Anybody that's coming and telling you there's one solution that's going to solve it all,
you can't label.
They're a snake oil salesman.
You got to be careful to label people, right? You're not one or the other, but the book helped me understand that I had a fixed mindset because I was afraid to make mistakes in certain areas, not in all areas, but in certain areas. And that allowed me to kind of relook at how I was doing it, so I could be more open for change and suggestion and constructive criticism. So that's how the book helped me, right? I'm not to label, not to make it black or white, but definitely just to label it. But we need to.
My daughter's going to kill me. I got to go take her to the hair plumber. Yes. She's got prom tonight, so we're going to rock this out. Well, I want to say to everybody, same bad time, same bad channel next week. We got What's Your Brand ROI, Return on Investment with Tisha Pelletier, I believe is how you say the last name there, hopefully. Yeah. And thank you so much, Ram, for today. And we always end this the same way. We count down on our fingers from 5 to crush it. So here we go. If you would
smash the thing. So ready? 5,
4, 3, 2, 1. Crush it. Go out and have an amazing weekend. We will see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Thank you so much, Ram. Thank you so much to our
Thank you for having me.
Audience for jumping in. Make sure you dive into Ram's link that we posted in the chat across the channels here. Go there because this is something that can help you understand how to approach business and how to approach your own preparation for things. We appreciate you. You're amazing. We will see you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.